Members of the committee, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present Senate Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 62, the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. This past November, the voters of the state approved Amendment 7, which enshrined in our Constitution that only U.S. citizens should have the right to vote in our elections. This measure was met with overwhelming and bipartisan approval. The people of this state have made it clear where they stand on this issue, and it is now incumbent upon us to ensure that we follow through on the mandate and ensure that it is enforced. It is for this reason that I filed Senate Bill 62. First and foremost, Senate Bill 62 creates a requirement to provide documentary proof of citizenship when registering to vote. Documentary proof of citizenship is defined in the bill and mirrors the requirements set forth in the Real ID Act of 2005. But it also includes some alternate means of proving citizenship in order to mitigate any additional burden that could potentially be placed on those who are legitimately permitted by law to participate in our electoral process. I also wanted to take precautions that this bill would only be applicable to those new registrants, and that there couldn't be any misinterpretations or unintended consequences resulting in the promulgation of rules that could require those already registered or those who moved to a different county to provide additional documentation in order to maintain the registration status they already had, which was the change, if you saw, I believe it was distributed, that was made in this substitute. My inspiration for this bill came several months back, and some of you might have gone through this process as well at this point, when I received the little card in the mail stating that I needed to renew my license and had the requirements for the new Real IDs. And so as I was going through the list, you see you have to bring in, select from a list of documents that includes birth certificate, social security card, passport, things like that. And just to be safe, because I've had previous experiences that were frustrating when renewing my license plate, I brought in about a folder this thick of different documents just to make sure I had all my bases covered. And of course, this time I had everything I needed the first try and probably didn't use a fraction of them. Given the new Real ID requirements and the fact that Missouri already has voter ID laws in place, this bill represents a common sense reform that would not really create additional burdens or barriers in order to register, since the same requirements are now already needed in order to obtain the Real ID. It also contains a few other provisions. Current law states that Secretary of State and election authorities are required to perform system maintenance on a regular basis rather than using a vague term like regular. This version of the bill changes this to read that system maintenance will be performed on a quarterly basis. I had a great conversation with the clerks earlier today, and we're going to work with them and probably fine-tune this to make sure that this is something that a broad coalition of people can get behind. It also allows violations to be referred to the Attorney General's office rather than just, quote-unquote, an appropriate prosecuting attorney. It also has a provision that the clerk of each circuit shall, on or before the 10th day of each month, transmit to the Secretary of State a list of all people who identify themselves as not being citizens during their qualification to serve as a juror. Another common sense reform, the information is out there. Why don't we utilize that to tighten up our voter rolls? This proof of citizenship requirement has already been instituted in other states, including Louisiana, Arizona, New Hampshire, Kansas, Alabama, and Georgia, and provided the mandate that we were given by the voters with the overwhelming approval of Amendment 7 last November. I believe we have a responsibility to ensure that this policy is enforced and that the will of the voters is upheld. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.